Hello and welcome. My name is Izzarator and this time I created a chronological timeline for the Sonic the Hedgehog movie franchise. In this video I will go through each entry and talk a little about them and when they take place and then start to fit them in the timeline. So please be aware there will be spoilers for the whole Sonic the Hedgehog movie franchise. Another thing worth mentioning is adaptations of the movies will not be considered here. So the 3 movie novelizations and Sonic the Hedgehog The Adventures of Sonic and Donut Lord, which is also an adaptation of the first movie, will not show up in this timeline. So, without further ado, let's start creating the timeline. The first entry will be the first movie, Sonic the Hedgehog. The movie starts with the battle that takes place at the end of the movie, but then we get a flashback to the origins of Sonic and how he ended up being on Earth. After the flashback ends, we now jump back to the current time and an insert shows that the current time is 10 years later. So the only question now is, what year is the current time set? Unfortunately, the movie doesn't give a clear answer. Because of that, I will simply go with the year the movie released. This means the main plot of the movie takes place in 2020 and the flashbacks we saw take place in 2010. After the main plot of the movie ends, with Sonic defeating Dr. Robotnik, we then jump to Dr. Robotnik now being stranded on the Mushroom Planet. His doctor's log states that it is day 87 on this planet, and he also mentions that he wants to be home by Christmas.
A lesser man would die here. I'll be home by Christmas.
This will be important later on. So this still is most likely set in 2020. In the mid-credit scene we get a sneak peek of Tails who will show up in the second movie. So I will save talking about when this takes place for later on. In the timeline, Sonic the Hedgehog will be the first entry. For the physical and digital release of the first movie, we got a bonus short film called Around the World in 80 Seconds. This is a narration of Sonic telling us about all the places he visited since he made Green Hills his home. It doesn't give us a clear indication when this narration takes place, but I think it's not too long after the first movie, but before the Dr. Robotnik Mushroom Planet scene. In the timeline, Around the World in 80 Seconds will be put right after Sonic the Hedgehog. Alongside the second Sonic movie, the comic Sonic the Hedgehog 2, the official movie Pre-Quill, was released. The comic contains 5 stories, which all lead into the movie. The first story in this comic is called Hedgehog Day Afternoon. In this story, Sonic stops some bank robbers who want to get their hands on some Dr. Robotnik tech. The only clue when this takes place is that there still lies some snow in Green Hills. This means the story has to take place early in the year. So the first movie also has to take place early in the year, and we will get this confirmed later on in this comic. So in the timeline I will place this in 2020 and after Around the World in 80 Seconds, because I think this happens a bit later, but it still takes place before the Dr. Robotnik end scene in the first movie. At the end of the Hedgehog Day Afternoon story, we see that Agent Stone takes back the stolen Robotnik tech from the bank robbers, which is also the beginning of the second story called The Secret of My Distress. We pick up right there and then see how Agent Stone gets to be the owner of the coffee shop we see in the second movie. So in the timeline, I place this still in 2020 and after Hedgehog Day Afternoon, but it still takes place before the Robotnik end scene in the first movie. Next is the third story called Always Bet on Red. In this story we see a little adventure Knuckles has before the plot of the second movie happens while he is searching for Sonic. At the end of the story he hires scavengers that we will also shortly see in the second movie. So this story has to take place not too long before that movie. For now we don't know when the second movie takes place, so I will put this story at the end of the timeline but with no year placement. The fourth story is called Two for the Road. This is a story about Tails, who himself is also searching for Sonic. His journey takes him across many worlds but he then gets noticed by scavengers. The same ones we earlier saw getting hired by Knuckles. So this story takes place shortly after Always Bet on Red and right before the second movie, but again with no year placement. The fifth and last story in this comic is called Mushroom with a View. This story extends the Dr. Robotnik Mushroom Planet end scene in the first movie.
A lesser man would die here. I'll be home by Christmas.
Remember, in this scene we see that Dr. Robotnik is already 87 days on this planet and he wants to be home by Christmas. Now in this story we see that Christmas is in 200 days. This confirms that this story is set in 2020 and that the first movie takes place early in the year. So the story takes place in 2020 and will be put between The Secret of My Distress and Always Bet on Red on the timeline. Next in line will be Sonic the Hedgehog 2. The movie starts again with Dr. Robotnik being stranded on the Mushroom Planet.
Doctor's log is day 243 in this Portobello Purgatory.
He then tells us that it is day 243 and because of the Mushroom with a View story, we know we are still in the same year as the first movie. Not too long after this, Robotnik will meet Knuckles, with whom he will team up to fight Sonic. We then got to see what Sonic is up to until we see Tails arriving on Earth, which is also the mid-credit scene of the first movie. The story continues with Tails and Sonic team up to find the Master Emerald. After finding it, Tails gives Sonic a history lesson about the Emerald and we see a flashback where the owls and the echidnas are fighting over it. Tails mentions they must be fighting each other for centuries. So when does this flashback take place? Centuries is plural, and that are at least 200 years, and it is up to 1900 years because 2000 years would be millennia. So I place it somewhere in the middle that would take this flashback to around the year 1100. Sonic and Tails unfortunately doesn't manage to get their hands on the Master Emerald because Dr. Robotnik and Knuckles intervene. They fight each other and Knuckles chases after Sonic. When he catches up to him, he then tells Sonic about his past and we get a flashback of young Knuckles and how he loses his tribe. This shows the same day Sonic lost Longclaw, and it takes place in 2010. The movie continues and Dr. Robotnik betrays Knuckles, which leads to Knuckles joining Sonic and Tails to bring down Dr. Robotnik and his giant robot. In the mid-credit scene, we get our first look at Shadow. We get a clue that he is imprisoned over 50 years, but as of now it is not clear when the Shadow reveal scene takes place. So Sonic the Hedgehog 2 will be placed at the end of the timeline, still in the year 2020, which also confirms the years of Always Bet on Red, 2 for the Road, and the mid-credit scene of the first movie. For the home media and digital release of Sonic the Hedgehog 2, a short film was released along with it. The short film is called Sonic Drone Home. We get to see a rogue drone of Robotnik trying to upgrade itself and still carrying out Dr. Robotnik's orders. This indicates this short happens not too long after the second movie, but I still think it is already the next year. So the short will be placed at the end of the timeline. The strongest argument for this happening in 2021 is how Knuckles behaves. He seems a bit calmer as we get to see him in the Knuckles show. Speaking of said show, next up is Knuckles, the only show on this timeline, and it contains 6 episodes. In the first episode, called The Warrior, we see that the hole in the house Knuckles created in the second movie is still being repaired, so the show can't take place too long after that movie. We also get a short recap of said movie pretty early on in this episode. The show is about how Knuckles struggles to adapt living now on Earth, but the ghost of Chief Pachacamac gives him the quest to rebuild their tribe by teaching an apprentice. This apprentice will be Wade Whipple. The show is pretty straightforward, with every episode taking place after each other, but there are 2 flashback scenes. one in episode 2 called Don't Ever Say I Wasn't There For You, when Wade was still a police trainee, which takes place around the 2000s, and one in episode 3 called The Shabbat Dinner, where we see another Shabbat dinner where Wade was still a kid. This takes place somewhere in the 1990s. So Knuckles will be put after the second movie, but before Sonic Drawn Home in the timeline. Next up is the last movie of the franchise so far, Sonic the Hedgehog 3. The movie begins with Shadow escaping his prison, and on a huge billboard we get confirmed that it is the year 2024. Here Shadow also says that he was imprisoned 50 years.
2024? I've been trapped for 50 years?
This means all flashbacks we have in this movie are from the year 1974, and the mid-credit scene of the second movie will also be put in this year, because one guard mentions that Shadow hasn't moved in 50 years.
This place gives me the creeps. Relax, that popsicle hasn't moved in 50 years.
And in the mid-credit scene, Shadow did move. Also, the glass tank we see there isn't the one we see in this movie, so maybe he was imprisoned in the first glass tank, escaped, but was soon after captured again, and then was put in the second tank, in which he then didn't move for the next 50 years. This movie also has a very confusing scene where they are celebrating Sonic's birthday, the day Sonic came to Earth. Many see this as an indication that this is his first birthday. This would mean almost every placement we did so far is wrong, and everything we placed in 2020 should be placed in 2023. But I don't think this is right. I think, yes, this is the first time they celebrate his birthday, but it isn't his first one. Why didn't they celebrate it the last 3 years? I don't know. Not everything can be explained here flawlessly, but one scene gives us a clue that this movie takes place more than a year from the first two. The scene I'm referring to is where Ivo and Gerald Robotnik think they defeated Team Sonic, and Ivo says to Gerald that he spent years trying to get rid of Sonic.
I've spent years trying to cleanse the cosmos of that spiny blue speed freak.
So I'm pretty happy with the year placements I gave earlier. So, the events of the movie continue, and Shadow, Sonic and Ivo team up to prevent Gerald trying to destroy Earth. We again get a mid-credit scene in this movie, but nothing really indicates we make a huge time jump, so I think this still takes place in 2024, but this can be changed when the fourth movie releases. Sonic the Hedgehog 3 will be put at the end of the timeline. Now to the last entry of the timeline. Sonic X Shadow Tokyo Mission Episode 0. This is a short manga released to promote the third movie. It shows us what happened between Shadow's prison escape and Team Sonic arriving in Tokyo, and also briefly overlaps with the movie. So as mentioned, the manga takes place during the beginning of the third movie in 2024, but will be put after the movie in the timeline to not spoil the beginning of the movie. Another entry to the franchise would be the short film A Very Sonic Christmas. But this short has a continuity problem.
Since this is our first holiday together, I'm gonna show you guys how to do it right.
Sonic says to Knuckles and Tails in the short film that this is the first Christmas for them together. And on a naughty or nice list we see the names of Ivo and Gerald Robotnik, which Sonic acknowledges.
These two are definitely on the naughty list.
But he only gets to know Gerald Robotnik in the third movie, and at this time it wouldn't be their first Christmas together, even when we put the first two movies in 2023. We also see Shadow in this short film, and Sonic mentions that Shadow will be a problem.
Well, if he can teleport, why did he have to steal my sleigh?
I feel like this guy's gonna be a problem.
Which sounds like he doesn't know him well yet, which wouldn't make much sense after the third movie as well. And there is no time jump in the third movie either. Watch this if you want, but putting it on the timeline would make too many problems wherever you would place it. So here's the finished Sonic the Hedgehog movie franchise timeline. Hope you enjoyed the video, and if you want to see more videos like this, subscribe and click the bell. And also please leave a like. this would help me a lot to grow my channel. Be sure to also check out one of my last videos. So, gotta go fast and see you in the next one.